Can we thank Jesus for a beautiful day? What incredible weather. I remember 21 years ago, we had the call, D.C. here, 500,000 people by 1 o'clock, and it started to rain. But it was a beautiful rain because it was very light and it was so hot that day. And it was a gift from God, and I believe that God's gracious to give us a day like today that I believe is going to be absolutely epic. It's going to be historic. I believe we could see the beginning of the greatest revival in the history of the church, birth out of Let Us Worship. Well, I love you, and I love the United States of America. I came to this country as an immigrant. My dad actually came first. He was the first Korean Southern Baptist pastor in North America. He came in 1958. Well, we had some visa problems, so my mother, my sister, and I came in 1960, November 1960. And I remember coming to this country, and it was just so amazing, so immense, so big. And now, many years later, I've had the privilege of traveling to 92 nations. This is not a hyperbole. Our ministry, Harvest International Ministry, which I'm privileged to serve, we're in 70 nations. So I've traveled around the world. And here's the thing, every time I come back, I say this is the greatest nation in the world. It is the best by far. Now, I'm from California. Even from Pasadena, California, this extreme left state is still the best nation in the world. But we've had quite a year. I believe that California with Governor Newsom was maybe the most egregious lockdown of all the states. And the reason why I say that is because 49 states opened some form of in-person worship, and we were the 50th. And the only reason why we opened at that time is because we won a lawsuit against Newsom, and the Supreme Court said 6-3 is totally unconstitutional to lock down the church. Let me tell you what happened when we sued, and I mean Harvest Rock Church and Harvest International Ministry. We have around 150 ministries and churches in California alone. And when we sued Governor Newsom, the next month, we sued him July 2020, the next month, August, I got this dark, nasty letter from our city prosecutor in Pasadena. And she was saying, this is a heads up, we are coming to arrest you for opening up your service. We had been open since Pentecost Sunday, May 31st. We're going to arrest you. We're going to fine your church members $1,000 per person for every time they've been meeting since Pentecost Sunday. And then the last paragraph, she wrote, and we reserve the right to arrest your church members. Meanwhile, Governor Newsom has allowed thousands of prisoners out of prison because of COVID crowdedness. Up to date, around 20,000 rapists, criminals have been released. And I'm reading this letter, I said, this is madness. Here, they want to arrest law-abiding citizens who pay their taxes, who simply want to worship Jesus. Meanwhile, Newsom's allowing criminals out. And I said to myself, this is not North Korea. I'm in the United States of America. Now, why did I say North Korea? Because my dad was born in Pyongyang, North Korea. And when 1945, when the war ended, as you know, Stalin and Roosevelt divided the nations. And Stalin wanted all of Korea to be communist, to be a buffer against the Japanese, because they were at war against the Japanese. And so were we at that time. But they made just this arbitrary decision on the 38th parallel to just divide North Korea from South Korea. And then 1948, a few years after World War II, Kim Il-sung became the dictator of North Korea. And he is the grandfather of Kim Jong-un, who's now the dictator of North Korea. One of the most oppressive communist nations in the world. Their human rights record is absolutely appalling. It's like a nation is under a concentration camp, the whole nation. So when he became dictator, he wanted to invade South Korea to unify the whole Korea as communists. So what he did was he arrested all pastors. Because as you know, communism is a Marxist ideology. They don't believe in God. And because they don't believe in God, they know that pastors will be the ones that will speak, because we believe there's a higher authority than Stalin or Newsom or President Biden. There's a higher authority. Jesus is Lord over the nations. He is Lord. And so my dad was arrested. And if it wasn't for the U.S. soldiers that intervened in the Korean War in 1950 that pushed North Korea all the way to the Chinese border, my dad would not have been released. And so he, along with millions, came and migrated down. I'll tell you, people hate communism. Those who have experienced it, they hate it. So millions came to South Korea, and my dad met my mom in a Presbyterian church, and then they had me a few years later. So thank God for that. But the point is that my dad knew communism is about. See, those who come from Cuba, from Venezuela, we could tell you, and we are now in the battle for the soul of this nation. Socialism, Marxism is coming. The ideology is creeping into California. And we need to take a stand for righteousness. We need historic revival and reformation to transform this nation. The good news is that signs of revival is here. We won the Supreme Court, and they could never lock down the church. No governor could ever lock the church down again in perpetuity, no matter who's in office. Because we won the Supreme Court case to set a precedent. Number two, I don't know if you saw that, but the Supreme Court ruled on the Texas heartbeat law 5-4. That is a sign that revival and reformation is here. I believe Let Us Worship is a sign of another Jesus people movement that's springing forth in America. And so we have our work cut out. And that's why we need to humble ourselves and pray, seek his face. See, judgment always begins in the house of the Lord. 1 Peter 4:17. It says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people, not the White House, not the Congress, if my people are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. He's talking about the church, people. The church has become lukewarm. It's become like a church in Laodicea. It makes God nauseous, and he's calling for the church to return to her first love, to love Jesus with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And it doesn't take many. You had Dave in the cave of Adullam with 400. You had Gideon with 300. You had the upper room with 120 that turned the world upside down. I believe that the critical mass created here today can turn the world upside down. God bless you. Let's believe God for historic revival.